Hello, good morning, Monday morning. All right, my name is Lydia Tetolet, and I work for a company called Precise Protect. And Precise Protect, we're regulated and governed by FCA, Financial Conduct Authority, and is the same body that governs the banks as well. So in 2022, I started to educate people in terms of insurance because I know that a lot of us don't have insurance, not because we don't know, we don't want to, but because some information are really hard for us to understand when it comes to insurance. So I did 2 videos, but after that I had an eye operation. You can see my eyes still a little bit red, but then I stopped. But I've come back again, and we're starting every Monday. We'll be getting new videos in terms of educating ourselves in insurance. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate, call me, or you can call my company as well. I work for Precise Protect, like I said, just for more clarification on what I'm talking about. So the first video that I did was about the 40% inheritance tax, and I spoke about if you have estate and it's more than 325,000, which is the threshold of 40% inheritance tax, you are liable for that. I also spoke about the wills and the trust. If you have a policy in place, make sure your policy is in trust. If it's not in trust, please contact me as well. Today we're going to talk about life insurance. And I'm going to take it so slowly so that we can understand, because I know sometimes I talk too fast and some things just disappear to the waters. So life insurance, some people always tell me that, when does it mature? Life insurance is not a saving scheme. Life insurance does not mature. Life insurance is not buying shares, and life insurance do not get your money back. Okay, that's one. We've identified that. Now, we have different types of insurance. Somebody tells me, I have insurance, and I say, what's the term? They say, no, I have insurance, which means that my insurance is forever. Well, that's not true. Insurance has a term, and the term of insurance with every provider for life insurance is up to the age of 90. That is the maximum term you can have with life insurance. Now, we also have something called whole of life, which means that's assurance. That's not insurance anymore. But assurance is very, very expensive. It probably starts from 50 and above, 50 pounds and above. It's very expensive, depending with your age and a lot of other factors that we'll talk about in another video, because we don't want to mix things here so that we can understand. So whole of life, it's very expensive. That's called assurance. Now, whole of life, even if you pass that, it doesn't have a maximum age. Okay, so there's 2. Whole of life without a maximum age, and that's very, very expensive. And then we have insurance that has a maximum age, which is up to the age of 90. The more years you take, the more money you pay. That's why you see whole of life, which is assurance, is very, very expensive, because it's a guarantee that you're going to get it. Now, people also something I want to remind people is the fact that people take cheap insurance, and they're like, I'm only paying 20 pounds, I'm paying 30 pounds. Cheap is always expensive, very expensive. Now, again, going back to 2 different types of insurances that we have. We have one that is called accidental death, and we also have a all-round insurance. If somebody tells me that I'm only paying 20 pounds, and most of the time I look at the insurance policy, they only have accidental death. Now, accidental death means if you only die by accident, that's the only time they're going to give you the money, if you die by accident. Okay? But all round, I call it all round insurance. That one, it doesn't matter how you pass on. You can pass on through an accident, through you slept and you didn't wake up, whichever way people pass on. You're sick, critical illness, terminal illness, you will get paid. You will get your payout. Your family will get your payout. Your children will get the payout. So that's why some people say, but insurance didn't pay because you had the wrong policy in place. You had accidental cover, and your person died of sickness. So of course they're not going to pay because you have the wrong policy in place. Okay, so that's life insurance. Now, we also have insurance that covers your children. You only take life insurance but it covers your children, okay? Because the only time your children are most likely automatically covered is when you take critical illness. Now, critical illness, we're going to talk about it on another video so you don't get confused again. So critical illness, unless you have that, that's when most likely your children are covered automatically. But with life insurance, your children are not covered. They're not covered. There's only one company that covers, as far as I'm concerned right now as I make this video, there's only one company that covers your children in terms of life. If you have only life insurance. I'm not going to say that company, but if you call me, I'm going to advise you, of course. Now, how are the children covered? If a child was to pass on, God forbid, but again, we shouldn't live in this world of thinking, this will never happen to me. It happens to people. It happens to people like you and me. God forbid, but these things do happen. So living in this world of thinking, oh my God, I'm a Christian. I go to church, or I go to mosque, or I go to here, or I do this, I worship this God. This will never happen to me. That's a lie. You're lying to yourself. Things do happen to the righteous and the unrighteous. Rain rains to the righteous and the unrighteous. Anything can happen to anybody at any time. Nobody escapes rain. It will happen. So for us, they say prevention is better than cure. So now, if you have insurance and you say, I want my children to be covered under my insurance, how does it work? If a child was to pass on, the provider will give you £10,000 for the funeral. Okay? Again, God forbid, if a child was to be diagnosed with a critical illness, which also happens, the provider will give the family, the parents, £25,000 because the parent will have to stop working to look after the child. Or one parent will have to stop working, or both parents, I don't know. And at least they'll give them £25,000 to look after this child. Okay? That is another. So when we're taking insurance, you should know that there's one that has a maximum, one doesn't. That's two. One only has critical accidental death, one doesn't. That's two. One can cover only you as a policy holder, or it can cover you and your children. The other one doesn't. So those are all different types of insurances that we have. Life insurance only pays out if you pass on. There's no time somebody will say, yeah, but I've been paid for 13 years. Can I have something back? It doesn't work like that. But you make sure that you have your life insurance policy. Make sure it's in trust. Because if it's not in trust, it's going to incur a percentage is going to be taxed. And you're also going to pass through probate before your family can get it. So if you don't want any problems, like Nigerians will say, any wahala, make sure your life insurance policy is in trust. And you've also written the beneficiaries that you want them to get the money. If you don't have beneficiaries and the money goes to anybody, you can just imagine how they're going to waste this money. And at that time, you're gone. And maybe you took insurance because of your children. And now the children that you took insurance for are not even going to benefit because you are not wise enough to put your policy in trust and name your beneficiaries. So next time, we're going to talk about critical illness, because I know there's so many different types of insurance, but we can only do one at a time, so we don't confuse ourselves. Okay, so just remember that the only time to make a claim is when you pass on. That's when your family will make a claim. And don't forget that we have different types of insurances. We have whole of life, that is forever, that's called assurance. We have the one that has a term. We have accidental death. We have all round. And we also have one that only covers you as a policy holder. And also one that can cover you and your children if you wanted your children to be covered. Now, the most important thing, I know some people always say, oh, that's not our portion, God forbid. Ignorance. 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 The Bible says that my people perished for lack of knowledge. And ignorance is not an excuse of law or excuse of anything, okay? So imagine if you pass on, which we will all do someday. If you pass on, you've left your children broke and broken. Broken because you're gone. Broke because you've left them with nothing. So imagine the combination of broken, a very bad combination. So guys, we should stop living in this ignorant world and think of our children. These other communities, apart from the black community, there is a black community that is so hard. And I understand, because this is not something that it's not in our culture, or it wasn't in our culture. But now the world is evolving, and you have to evolve with the world. We're in a different geographical area. We're in a different planet. Everything is moving. You have to move. Look at when we didn't have mobile phones came, and then they started Bluetooth, and then now everything is evolving. Why do you evolve with some things and ignore others? We cannot ignore death, and we cannot ignore being born, because those two things, they're the only things we cannot control: to be born and to die, because we're all born and we're all gonna die someday. So be wise. Better safe than sorry. If you have any questions, please get in touch with me and I will help you. Until then, God bless you.